So welcome to my channel, 12 Bells. So we're going to talk about NYCHA today, and we have another NYCHA resident and a NYCHA advocate. So I'm so happy that we have this great panel. And if the resident wants to introduce themselves, I would really appreciate that. But I know that sometimes people are sensitive about using their names and so forth. So if you would like to introduce yourself, you can do so now.
Okay, Edna, you are frozen, and what's the brother's name? I can't even see it. Both of you are
DJ
frozen.
Elf.
Yeah, both of you are frozen right now. Is that going to be a problem with your recording?
DJ Elf. DJ
Um,
is Ed.
I don't see you guys on the show. I just see I
No,
see
because I see it's moving right now.
yeah, I saw people
It's on
moving.
my end. I see it playing with no problem.
Maybe try
Oh, wow. So
refreshing the
why is it
browser.
frozen on my end?
Try refreshing the screen.
I don't know, but you can introduce yourself. We're still going forward with no problems.
Okay, well, my name is Crystal.
Hi,
Um,
Crystal.
and nice to see you, Edna, and your other guests. Um, I'm a NYCHA resident, um, but I'm going to refrain from saying what development.
Okay.
I don't I just speak for reasons that I'm just really exhausted with a lot of stuff. So I don't even um I'm just disgusted with a lot of stuff. So I'm just basically, maybe at the end I'll say where I live, what development. But right now for right now I don't feel like saying it.
No problem.
But,
You have to total freedom to do that. No problem.
so thank you
And
for the invitation.
Ed, did you want to tell us?
Okay. My name's DGL7. I've been actually an advocate for public housing. And what's interesting is I was there during the Rad Pact era when it was first put in. I also was I also worked as a lead inspector in public housing, and I was telling a lot of residents what was going on. So I had this documented, and public housing protects our most vulnerable, and we need to really, have a serious conversation what's going on. I'm very excited to meet the people on this panel today. Thank you.
Awesome. So one of the things that we definitely wanted to talk because of this new drama going on regarding this criminal crackdown with 70 NYCHA staff regarding cutbacks and financial kickbacks from developers. And a lot of people was asking, how can that be when we haven't been getting repairs? So how are they working with developers and we're not getting repairs to our buildings, right? And it's like we always see that there's a delay when it comes to NYCHA resident getting repairs. And yet they supposedly work with people with unions. Our caretakers are in a union. Usually everybody that they work with are supposed to be unionized. They just go with the lowest bid. Yet we still don't get work done, or it's not it's subpar. Like they don't do the work right. Yet we're supposed to be getting these union workers. So it's really ridiculous. But we wanted to start with showing everybody the video right here. I'll make it big, of the corruption that is most current corruption, and then we'll all talk about our opinion about it. So here we go.
From our development, she was from two.
Remains what happens to the 300,000 residents that call NYCHA home and continue to live in disrepair. So joining us this morning is the NYCHA tenant president for the Douglas houses on the Upper West Side, Carmen Quinones, and New York City Councilman Chris Banks, who chairs the Public Housing Committee. So good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
And thanks for taking the time to be here this morning. Carmen, let's start with you because you are a friend of ours here at Pix 11. You work with Monica Morales on many occasions talking about some of the disrepair in your own particular housing development. Were any of the employees employees from your development
Yes,
arrested?
we had one from our development. She was from back in 2015 to 2021.
What was your reaction to hearing it?
I'm not surprised.
Really? And
I'm
why
not
is that?
surprised because listen, I've been saying this for a long time. You know, every battle that I've had, every one that I've confronted, every elected officials that I fought, I've told them, listen, it is time for you to investigate. Investigate. Where's the money? You can't tell me that you don't have no money, as much as we were fighting for money, right? But this it's not surprising. And to tell you the truth, this is the tip of the iceberg. They need to go up the chain, and they need to get the people that really need to get got.
And that's where you come in, right, Councilman Banks? Because as we know, Monica's been reporting on it for some time. NYCHA has a long history of corruption, right? So what comes next then, to Carmen's point, in holding those higher accountable? There are going to be hearings that you're going to call for to put NYCHA folks in the hot seat and make them answer some tough questions.
Well, that is the focus. I mean, the reality is that this has been a long time coming. I'm not surprised either, being a long-term fighter for NYCHA residents.
Yeah.
So the reality is that we're going to hold them accountable. We're going to put forth some hearings. We're working with Councilwoman Julie, who's also in charge of the contracts committee, and we're going to look at these contracts, look at what was done, and the reality is that we're going to hold NYCHA accountable.
What does accountability look like?
Well, obviously we have to look at the fact that there were recommendations that were made back in 2021. There are recommendations that were made back in 2017. We need to find out who dropped the ball, and heads need to roll.
Yeah.
That's just the reality.
Yeah.
NYCHA is one of the most abused tenants in the entire country, and something has to give. So I'm committed to having our hearings and holding NYCHA accountable.
It is good to hear this, but I've heard it all before. Okay, this is exactly why I'm running for state assembly this year. I am running for state assembly because this is enough. Enough is enough. When you talk about senior citizens living in deplorable conditions like they're living in, enough is enough. It is time for Resident Management Corporation, where the residents take over their developments, get their own vendors, their own. We need to rule.
Yeah.
We're tired of people coming in talking about what they're gonna do. It ain't working.
Yeah,
It ain't working.
So when you hear NYCHA saying they've made improvements, in fact, NYCHA's chief executive officer claims that there's been progress over the years, making this statement. If we'll have it on the screen right there. We have already made transformative changes to our business practices and will continue to do so. We will not allow bad actors to disrupt or undermine our achievements. Have you noticed any improvements, or has it all been downhill?
Let me give it to you straight. Listen, I got some pretty good people that I work with. Don't get me wrong. Everyone in NYCHA is not bad. Okay, everybody in NYCHA is not bad, but the ones that really get the totem pole are the caretakers. Everybody, all of them are getting stepped on. No one's talking about the caretakers, the maintenance. Nobody's talking about them. Okay, it's good to put the blame on somebody. That's good. That's what they do. That's what they do. But let's go, and I'm asking, I am praying that Damian Banks, please go up the totem pole. There's so much more, and I'm tired of being tired, and that's why I'm running for state assembly.
All right. And so Councilman, you talked about the hearings, right? 335 developments, 100 of those arrests from those that were arrested worked in some of those developments, right? Does that affect now change moving down the line and getting some of these things done that Carmen's talking about?
Well, I mean, the reality is that in my district, I think we had about 9 people that got arrested.
That's right.
So I mean, listen, the whole idea again is heads have to roll. We can't, listen. I'm the new chair for the Public Housing Committee. I have a long track record of fighting for residents in NYCHA. So I'm not just coming to this table with not understanding the realities and the level of corruption that has continued over the years at NYCHA. So I believe that we have to take a serious look, and we have to continue to hold them accountable. And the reality is that, yes, what does accountability look like? It's when the residents are comfortable, when there is justice that is rendered to them, and when we hold folks accountable for the corruption that is being done.
What's justice is listening to the residents.
Looking at it systemically.
Yeah, I feel like
and that's what the hearings are about.
Well, yeah, 'cause
Listen to the residents.
Yeah, and I feel
Listening
like
to the residents.
the damage is already done.
It is.
How do you even ever repair?
You can
that
never. We
damage?
can never trust them.
Correct.
We won't trust them again.
Right.
We need to own our. It's ownership. It's about equity. Okay, resident management corporations. You're talking about PAC and all these. All of that is corrupt. We've been doing this for. I've been in this business 35 years, mama. 35 years. I know who's who, what's what. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. Lining your pockets on the backs of my grandchildren and my great grandchildren. I got 19 grandchildren and 13 great grand.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
But we hear your pain, and we know it's shared by so many.
It hurts.
tenants.
I'm telling you, I'm just in pain.
And I
Yes.
hear the frustration. I feel the frustration.
Yeah.
Of course.
I've also said that RAD Impact is going to be more corrupt programs, or this quote unquote fix for NYCHA. We need to look at the commitments that were made to these developers, because we've seen where the repair monies are being milked, and we want a real investment in NYCHA. We don't want a get rich scheme. And that's what has been perpetrated by the RAD PAC program.
We have to leave
It's
it
been
there.
an abysmal disaster.
Well, I like a commitment from you to sit me at the table with you, because you know what?
You have
for
my
35 for 35 years I've been at this.
You have my
I
commitment.
fought Giuliani. I fought Ruben Franco. I go back 35 years, babe.
Yeah.
This ain't new.
He said he's-
We're on the same side.
Hey,
I've
dude.
been attacking on
Yeah.
that for the last 20 years.
All right.
The residents
Keep
is
us-
what counts.
We're out of time, but keep
We'll
us
fight.
posted, okay?
We'll
On
fight
hearings and everything
Thank you
else.
for having us.
Of course.
Thank you.
Important
The truth
conversation.
counts.
Truth
Yes,
matters.
sure does,
Absolutely.
sure does.
Great to have both of
Thank
you.
you.
Hi, Mark Barnett, Sandy Hook Thomas here.
Okay, so when you see that, it looks like we have all this resident leadership and that this corruption, but Crystal and Ed, we all know that the reality is that every administration, they go through the same thing. I was advocating when Tino Hernandez was the CEO and chair, right? And at that time, they was talking about trying to do infill and so forth, right? And Crystal is very familiar with infill because she stopped them from doing it at her development, okay? She has had much success with keeping the grounds of her development from a whole extra building. Like they wanted to put a whole building within her development, right? And they're always doing something trying to say that they're trying to get extra money. Oh, we need the money so we can do the repairs. But every time when you really look into what's going on with NYCHA, they're mismanaging money, they're stealing it, and nobody goes to jail. Like how do we have a discussion about holding people accountable when time and time again we see people and this corruption, and they always have somebody come up and say, what you need to do is listen to the residents. What do you think about that, Crystal? Can NYCHA listen to the residents? Do they do it?
Okay, well, first of all, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Because I left the camera, I left the picture. You know I'm not that computer lit.
You're
I'm looking
doing
in the
great.
chat. I'm looking in the chat and I'm seeing all these questions from DJ 7
Yes.
and so forth. Okay. Where do I start?
Wherever you want to.
First of all, when we speak, we need to really listen to ourselves before we let stuff come out of our mouth. Because some of the things Carmen said wasn't the right nouns and verbs wasn't in the right places. But I'm not trying to critique or put nobody down. I'm just saying. So that's one thing. The other thing is the way I feel about NYCHA now. I really, as much as I would want to remain living in NYCHA, because I don't know any place else to live. NYCHA, we got 2 elevators. we pay our rent, and someone else does the repair. Whereas if you own your home, if you own a duplex and things of that nature, something break, you got to fix it. And
That's
so
right.
you have tenants say, "Child, I don't F for NYCHA because they don't never come in and do what they supposed to. So I went and spent 4 G's fixing up my refrigerator, and I did this and that." And I'm saying to myself, "You the fool, because you already paying a whole lot of rent, and on top of that, you fixing your own stuff because you say you don't trust NYCHA." So that right
Correct.
there is ridiculous. Okay, so
Yes.
what's my point in saying that? I know that the tenant council, resident council, is the conduit between management and tenant. It's the voice between the management and the tenant, and it's the power. And the fact that management has allowed itself to abandon us, because I can remember in the 70s, the projects was a place where you appreciated. You had beautiful landscapes. That's why everybody wanted to come over and walk their dogs, because there was grass, trees, and stuff like that. So people who lived in what we call tenements, they were kind of jealous of us because we had the elevators, we had the incinerators. They didn't have that. They had to bring their garbage downstairs. More than likely, they had rats. But I will say most of them were working people. The tenement people were working people. A lot of the NYCHA people they came in husband and wives, and for some reason the husbands would leave, not all of them, but a large portion would leave, and the women had to get on welfare and go to these poverty programs to feed their kids and so forth and so on. So that's a little bit of history as far as the black part of our what's that word? What's that word? This is the Bible. Our whatever you call it in Genesis. Our coming to NYCHA. Okay. And
So
so
how we migrated over there?
right, how we
Our
got into
migration.
right. Because originally black people weren't allowed in NYCHA. It was for the army vets and all this kind of thing here, from what I heard in the 30s and all this kind of thing. And so so what's my point? So growing up as a kid in NYCHA, I always would look around and, oh my God, we had parks. I'm trying not to be too long with it. You had the park with the swings, and so you wasn't trying to get out of NYCHA. You wasn't like, yo, I'm gonna have to go do this and this and this because I got to get up out of here. You wasn't thinking like that because everything, it was clean. If you knew not to go into the grass, you get a fine. You even knew to keep your apartment clean because they did apartment inspections. If your apartment was dirty, they either had the option of moving your butt out of here, or they would give you time to get it together. That's how management works. Then came crack. Crack came, closed up all of our laundry rooms. We had laundry rooms.
Yes.
We didn't have to buy washing machines and dryers. We had a room for that.
And I just wanted to just let them know, Packer 5 and 6, right? They still have the laundry rooms, but it's not in use. And I think that's why they're trying to take those buildings over. But yes, we used to have laundry rooms. Continue, yes.
And so, crack came and they was using the laundry rooms for what I heard. They was turning tricks and stuff. So everything's I don't know how management once this, because there was always drugs in NYCHA, as far as I know of. There was always dope in NYCHA. But when crack came, I don't understand how management took their hat off or whatever, or turned the other cheek, so that these buildings were infiltrated with people dealing crack. Sometimes 5 or 6 floors were doing it. So I don't understand how management was able to turn their back and allow the deterioration to just continue to the point where we're at now. And so as far as the leadership, the tenant leadership, I'm not sure because I remember people who first started the Tenant Association when I was growing up. And the person in particular that I'm speaking of, this person, she got into it really for good reasons and stuff like that. And, people would tell me, oh, that lady, she got me a job, she got me an apartment. She was really, really good. But at some point, things just start going down. And the tenant leadership, instead of working for the tenants, they became self-absorbed with it and you would think that they was the godfather or the godmother. You had to go to them, oh godmother, rubbing their hand, like in the movie, how he would go and get his son. He's beating my sister, and the person became like a godmother, a godfather, and stuff like that. And that's not what the Tenant Association was intended for. It's intended. You have bylaws that govern it, like the Bible. It may say in the bylaw that there's elections after 2 or 3 years. So you don't go in with the intention to stay forever. I don't care how good you do. I don't care if I started this in my development, so I'm going to stay here to make sure that my name is reigning over it. That's not what it's for. It's intended to teach tenants of what's going on so that they can hand over the what you call it, let the next person get in, give them a little bit of experience, et cetera, et cetera. That's the way it's supposed to be operating. And so at the point I am now with NYCHA, I'm disgusted with it. And I really, which is probably what they want me to do, they want us to just say, F it and move out. That's what they want. And that's where I'm at.
I wouldn't say that you've completely given up, because that's how we met. I met you as a NYCHA advocate. You was always encouraging people to know about the bylaws. Bylaws are depending on your development. So everybody's development bylaws can be different. Bylaws are not across the board, right? But when it comes to the 964 regs, that is what we can use as across the board, right? And DJ L7, along with Melina, had provided us with the 964 regs, which you see right here. We don't have to talk about that yet, because I know Ed did want to, speak. So Ed, I wanted you to be able to talk as well, since we was still talking about that, the corruption. I'm listening.
Wow, there's a bunch of things. Actually being an inspector before, and talk about repairs and stuff. I think the most critical thing that I really want to address here, Crystal, I don't know how far you go back. Is Crystal still part of the call? I don't know.
If she fell out, she can come back in.
Okay, so hopefully she's still watching. Either way, so the thing is that I want to explain like how I got involved with this fight in the first place, right? Why am I still working on this public housing thing? Well, I've been working on it back in the day when it was first instituted under Rad Pact. At the time, I was an elected student leader. And the thing is that I was told about this project where they said that they're ending public housing as we know it.
Just to let you know, Crystal is back.
Okay, great to see you, Crystal. Yeah, I really want to hear your. I don't know if you were around for the stuff was passed. So the thing is that we were told that they were ending public housing as we know it, but remember there was no real big outcry, as in terms of the end of public housing with this announcement of Rad Pact. Now you might wonder. Now I was asked about right now where I stood on this, and at first, as anybody would say, what's going to happen to the residents, right? Like, is this really the best idea here? But then we were told, right, that this was a way for the residents to actually get to own the property themselves. This was going to be the community reinvesting into the residents, and that they would become owners in the community, right? And I think that made sense to me. Rad Pact is supposed to be what we were told it was through the repairs. So by giving someone else the right to repair your property, you're admitting that someone else owns it. Now the thing is that the government said they can't pay for the property because they have to sell the property because they can't pay for it because the rent is too low, which might be true, which might not be true either way, but this was supposed to be a way for residents. Now I do support saving Section 9 in public housing because people with disabilities, elderly, veterans, right? Yeah, these people sometimes.
And I support Section 9 as well. Yes.
Yeah, they can't support all of this other thing, but we could buy new stock and turn that into more updated housing, more compliant with disability needs, and give you the apartments that you're living in now. That was the and you would actually make $1 million off of that. These apartments are worth over $1 million. I think that you should have it. That's the way it was originally designed and intended. Now that the time has come, it seems to me that they're just not telling you. They're doing the repairs themselves, saying, oh, we're going to... Why all of a sudden do they want to repair your apartment? Like, is all of a sudden they started caring about you? Or is this a way for them to take control of your apartment through Also remember that, okay, here's also something I want to warn you about. Remember during the Obama era, there was a lot of minority people that had problems with taking out mortgages on their homes. There was the mortgage crisis. Remember that? This is set up in a
Yes.
very similar way. Because of, right, the ownership of your property, just your right to own it makes you technically a millionaire. So that right, you could borrow on the value of that home to repair your property. But if you're irresponsible about it, and if you use like an adjustable rate ARM mortgage, then yeah, people are going to lose their homes. You know what I mean? But this is an opportunity for you to become an owner in the community. So we're set up in that same way. Does this make sense?
I'm familiar with that. I know that people in Carver houses is a very strong advocate about that idea, and I have heard about it through SECA, which is Committee for Independence and Community Action. I'm not in support of it. I don't know if are you in support of it, Crystal?
No.
No, I'm not in support of that, but I am aware of it. People have been talking about that for the longest. I would be in support of it if our tenant association or resident association councils was able to be really organized and get information out to people. But since they are not, and they haven't been, they're not forthcoming themselves and transparent. Like oftentimes when it comes to the resident councils, from my experience, they don't talk about they don't talk about why we have a treasurer. Like we wouldn't have a treasurer on the board if we didn't get any kind of money. And if you go to outside meetings about NYCHA, they let you know that you're supposed to get $25 per occupied apartment, right? That we have a thing called TPA funds, which is HUD money that all TA presidents get. That's why we have a treasurer. I don't like how sometimes the way that people talk and how they say, I don't get paid, and they give this impression that they don't get money. If you don't get money, you don't have a treasurer. Am I right or am I wrong?
Correct.
You do not have a treasurer. There's no need to have one. So there is money within the tenant association or resident councils, but they don't like to, usually when we have a monthly meeting, they don't like to give their report, right? We don't get a financial report. They don't let us know what the money is, how much money is in there, how they doing, right? And they stopped doing the cards. So right, so as a member, we used to pay $5. You get a card for your resident membership. They stopped. I don't know why. Crystal, do you know why they stopped doing the dues for a resident?
Thank you for the question, Edna. This is the deal. In 2019, I was inquiring about the elections because I knew the elections were due. So I called, I think her name was Gina Watkins at the time. So I'm talking to her and she says to me, well, because of COVID, all NYCHA development elections are going to be held. That was November 29th. I think it was going to be at the end of November. She said a letter went out from HUD saying that because of COVID, that the elections would be waived, the bylaws would be waived, and that all tenants 18 years and older will be able to vote. This was a letter that supposedly went out to all resident councils. Now, if you have a council, and this is from HUD, and that's why not all bylaws had membership dues. I remember a man that was on my board. He said we're not supposed to be paying dues anyway.
Interesting.
He said right. He said we're not supposed to be paying it. So my bylaws, our bylaws here says membership dues, but that was waived in 2019. So okay, so that applies to all NYCHA developments, that there is no membership dues. And if your resident council hasn't mentioned it to you, it just shows to show you they're not doing their job.
Right, or they somehow disconnected, right? Sometimes
I have the letter, and I'm sorry, I must say this. You should see the print of this letter. It's very light. It wasn't printed boldly. Even if you print it on your printer directly from those people, it's so light that you really need glasses to look at it. And I asked the lady, could you send it darker? She says, no, I'm sending it to you the way I got it. That go to show you, they really don't want us to know what's going on.
Right, and that's one of the problems. But I was informed that we didn't have resident dues anymore on the NYCHA YouTube channel. So NYCHA has a YouTube channel, right? And they did do a video explaining to the residents that we no longer have to pay dues. But as we all know, some of our residents don't even get a copy of their bylaws, right? So you could have been a member, paid your $5, and got a card. Some people didn't even get cards. Like I'm showing a card. Some people don't even have cards, right?
Right.
This is my card. Some of them, because they stealing the money right from that level, right? So they'll take your money, and maybe they'll give you a receipt. You don't get a card. You'll get a receipt that you paid your membership. But that's it. You don't get nothing else, right?
Yeah,
and then they always do something little sneaky. That's why you gotta demand as a resident for the treasurer's report, because how they taking dues and don't have a treasury report, it just doesn't make any sense. But I wanted to state, and then I'll go back to you, Ed. I wanted to state the fact that in a newsletter from the Borough President's Office of Brooklyn, he said that this is a newsletter, right? I wanted to show y'all. And he had a section about NYCHA in there. I just want to show y'all some documentation, because a lot of things are being documented, but we know that everybody isn't getting it, right? Crystal's back. She had fell off. So it said, investing in NYCHA. For too long, Brooklyn public housing developments have been underfunded and tenants have been overlooked. In fall of 2023, Brooklyn President Reynoso is his name, celebrated the hard work of NYCHA tenant associations and his announcement of $108,000 allocated to support programming at NYCHA developments across the borough. How is that money being allocated? And who is keeping track of the money? They said this money with the tenant associations, right?
Wow.
The residents never know anything. Okay? The residents are always they always say to anybody, I don't know. If you're not involved in the tenant association, you don't know about anything. And if you're not on the executive level with the vice president or the president, you're not going to your CCOP meetings, right? You don't even necessarily get a report about CCOP meetings. I've never been to a tenant meeting where they gave a CCOP report meeting. Have you, Crystal, where they report about what they discuss in the CCOP?
Well, first of all, the District Council of Presidents, which is CCOP, only the presidents meet.
Right.
And not even the vice president, only the president. And it's broken up into north, south, because I'm
East
in south.
West.
So yeah.
Yes.
I think it's broken up into 4, they don't even meet with the tenant. They meet with the presidents
only.
And there has to be a quorum at that meeting. If the district has 57 tenant developments, there has to be, I think, at least 27 in attendance or the meetings, or there's no quorum. And so if you're in a development where you don't go to meetings, or even if you go to meetings and they're not going in accordance with their bylaws, you're not going to know what's going on anyway. And I don't think there's anyone there to challenge these people, which is why you could go to NYCHA, you can go to the executive, the top people, and complain all you want. But it's almost like a secret society type thing.
Yes.
And so it takes the residents to approach their tenant association. Like if I was to go over to my TA right now, to the office, I would have to have someone with a camera so they can video everything that takes place. Say, for instance, they don't want to let me in. If I'm not going to do it, they say, well, we ain't letting you in. It has to be on camera. If they open the door and say, you come to start trouble, it has to be on camera. You have to start documenting how you're approaching it to the residents.
I agree
and
with
it
you.
needs to start ASAP, because guess what? Elections are due this year. Remember, 2019, all New York City Housing Authority developments had elections, and the elections are due this year. And so you could start right there with challenging those people who want to run, because to me, when someone gets in unopposed, meaning nobody came out to vote,
Nobody.
nobody comes out to vote, so whoever runs, they get in unopposed, and they carry on as though they're a secret society.
And
So
I
it's
wanted to say this before we go back over to Ed, so he can share what he wanted add to the
yes, ma'am. Yes,
conversation.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
When it comes to what we was talking about the resident leadership, they oftentimes they don't give us any kind of background about how, in order to get access to these TPA funds so they can have a field trip or some kind of retreat or anything like that, which they do. They have retreats. They go to Camp Mariah. Have you ever been to Camp Mariah, Crystal?
Never.
But you know about it.
Nope.
Because a lot of resident leaders would go to Camp Mariah, which is Mariah Carey's land. She has the land. People would go spend the night and everything. Have the conference at Camp Mariah. They also have been to Florida. They've been to New Orleans. They've been to they go around
Louisiana. They've been to
Louisiana. Yes. Is that with the
uh,
National Coalition of
Georgia.
Housing, or they don't call that? What do they call that, Crystal? How are they going on these trips? What is
Well,
the budget that they're using?
they're using TPA funds. Tenant
Okay, so that's the
participation.
TPA funds, which they have
Yes,
to request
you have
like
to
a
write.
proposal.
Exactly.
Yes.
You have to fill out
Yes. So you got room and board and everything, and oftentimes residents don't get they don't get a recap of what they learned as the
Nope.
resident leadership went to
Nope.
learn about other public housing developments and how they. It's all supposed to be about an opportunity to network.
Yeah.
So Ed, I wanted to know what did you want to add?
Okay. I have so much to say. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Now the thing is that being actually you're absolutely right, and that's actually just a lot of my work actually is to address exactly what you guys were talking about, right? The secret society. We're trying to get people to enter county committee, to enter, to mobilize, to attend meetings of their tenant association meetings, things like that. So I love the work that y'all are doing. Let me tell you right now that actually as a lead inspector, I did learn about the dangers of lead, and I'm telling you right now that people's lives are in danger. Now, the fact of the matter is that, let me show you how stupid this is, by the way, okay? The thing is that in the 70s, they found out about the dangers of lead. Remember, back in the 70s, they used to have lead in gasoline, and they took it out, because that's when they found out about it. They passed a law saying that lead was legal in paint, because they found the kids were eating the paint, right? Yeah? And this law was set to expire in 50 years, because they do have, right, laws have expirations. You know what I mean? They have an act right now. So the thing is that the end of the 50 years was approaching, and they realized, oh my goodness, right? Yeah, we've never actually tested to make sure that we actually have compliance with this law. So as it's coming to an end 4 or 5 years out, right? Yeah, the government says, they run a series of tests. Now I'm going to share on the screen right now. Let me see if I can share this. Give me a second. Okay. Yes. Okay. There we go. So here you could see that this girl right here was poisoned and got permanent brain damage. Okay, after
that's so sad.
Yeah, NYCHA falsified its lead report to the feds. Okay, you guys already know about this, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So right now you see the lead inspectors out there, and by the way, some people might wonder why they have the devices and they have you sign off on those devices. That's because what happened was some inspectors, I can tell you about fraud going on all the levels. There was a dude who was in New Jersey who was pretending like he was going to work and clocking that on his device, right? Yeah. But the thing is that he was actually in Jersey pretending like he was doing the work, saying he was doing the work when he didn't. And sometimes you may have experienced this, right? You file a report you file a ticket saying that you need to get something fixed, and they say they fixed it, but nobody ever came.
Right.
A very common complaint, right? Yeah. So actually,
Yes.
NYCHA does have some things to try to catch these people, right? It's a cat and mouse game, but they're not also guilty too, and I can tell you about like higher level issues going on, right? Here you could see, but sometimes this happens at the inspector level, and as an inspector right now, okay, let me tell you how your lives are in danger right now. So right now, they're doing all this, right, this lead testing, by the way, and they also tested twice, remember. There's a lot of work going on that has nothing to do with residents' health or financially intelligent decisions. It's about people trying to cash out on the system, 100%, right? We know this is going on too. Now, okay, it seems like so let's say that they did their due diligence, they found the lead in the paint. But do you guys know about this? Let me share this with you. Oh my goodness, this is so disgusting. Did you know that there's actually, you know what water mains are?
Yes.
Okay. So water mains are actually, the thing is that the pipes that carry the water from the water main to your building, I'm about to show you right now, if they're, let's read this right here. You see this, I'm sharing, give me a second. It should be coming up. Is it popping up? Okay. Lead service lines have not been installed since 1961, and the use of lead solder was banned in 1987. That's not that long ago. Okay, we scroll down, okay? 1 in 5 New Yorkers may be drinking water from lead pipes. But there is no law coming to a close where they got to check on that. So guess what? They're going to let that happen. So you're worried about lead in your paint where your kids might eat it, but you're drinking water from a pipe that's definitely got the lead in the water. Is this a good idea?
No.
That's how dysfunctional our... The only thing that really protects residents is their management. They got to know what's going on. I told the Federal Monitor, by the way, I wanted to ask you about that too, right? Yeah, if you have any experience with Federal Monitor. And right now, maybe they were holding off because they were doing this investigation. But I have myself documented with Federal Monitor saying, I worked as an inspector, and I can tell you that because the people at the end of the job, me who was doing the actual work, I don't know how much the company was getting paid to do the work. So the company was incentivized to make me do more work within a certain amount of hours, right? Yeah, which caused certain things to, for example, right? If I scan your apartment and I find the presence of lead, I have to take a paint chip sample, and that takes more time. So some, right? Yeah, some people you're gonna find, right? Some inspectors are gonna find that for some reason they just they're able to complete more jobs and make more money, but they have a very, 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 very low rate of finding the actual lead in their paint chips.
And that's corruption yet again. I mean, come on.
So
NYCHA and their ongoing
the best thing
corruption.
they can do is actually train, not even outsiders. Each resident, right? Yeah, has to be provided with the tools to know how to do this. It's not that complicated. It really isn't. They could borrow the tool, do it for themselves, right? Yeah, and make sure, and do it. Just learn how to use the tool. It's really not rocket science, but but they're making money off of giving the classes, and it's a whole racket. So
Yeah.
Yes.
your lives are in danger, right? Look at this. Yeah, you're drinking water from lead pipes. They don't give a damn. It's happening right now. I'm sorry. That's how disgusting this is.
Yeah.
And in my building, sometimes the water would be brown, so we wasn't going to drink it, do the rest or whatever. We have a problem with the pipes because they was doing new construction across the street. So we just got to the point of drinking bottled water. But back to what Crystal was trying to make sure residents understand. We have each resident that lives in the development, their resident council has bylaws. Now, when it comes to a full board, that usually consists of a president, a vice president, a secretary, a treasurer, a sergeant at arms, right? Now, when it comes to the vice president, the corresponding secretary, and all, the recording secretary, those are all things that you can choose as a resident council if you want to add to that. Am I correct, Crystal?
Yes, because some developments have 2 and 3 presidents.
Yes.
2 and 3 vices. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
So that goes by your bylaws, how you wanna do it as the resident council. But most people, they have a full board, and it consists of a president, a vice president, a secretary. That's usually your recording secretary, right? your treasurer, your sergeant at arms, and now you have a full board. Now, usually when you want to complain about your development not having a board or not having a full board, you have to go through resident engagement. I do not know people's experience with resident engagement, but I have called resident engagement regarding resident watch, right? So, every building has a right to have a resident watch. And I wanted to know, is the resident watch supposed to be NYCHA's form of security? Because we always complain that we have a lack of security, and they try to come up with these things of having a resident watch, which is available. The sign-in sheet is also at the PSA. Crystal, could you explain a little bit of the resident watch and its relationship with the PSA?
Well, first of all, with a name like Resident Watch,
right,
the question becomes, who came up with that name? Because if I was a criminal, the first thing I'm going to say is resident. That means somebody watch it. The resident is watching me. It used to be called Tenant Patrol.
Right.
Okay.
I remember.
So there's a Tenant Patrol division. I forget the sister's name. She got a long last name. I forget her name. But so they have their own division in NYCHA, which was called Tenant Patrol. Now it's called Resident Watch. Those names are ridiculous, because if I'm a criminal and you telling me you watching me, you see what I'm trying to say? It creates discord between tenant and the criminal, between the tenants. Because
yes.
Because the resident watch is made up of tenants.
Yes.
And I am, as a criminal, I'm a tenant. Or if I'm not a criminal, if I maybe got my baby daddy living with me, or I got my family from Ecuador that's coming and hanging out, nobody knows, and they're not on the lease. So you tell me that you resident watch and all this kind of thing. So it creates discord. Discord meaning it's creating hate. I don't like you. I know you watching me, so I hate you. You see what I'm trying to say? So NYCHA is constantly having us looking at one another suspect. So that's a problem.
Well, also, and Crystal, I wanted to add, like in my building, the resident watch had their own office separate from the TA. So the Tenant Association had their own office, right? And the resident watch had their own office. And the resident watch, they all had their little jackets. They had a blue jacket and stuff. And they had a sign-in sheet. They want you to sign in sometimes. Certain hours you had to sign in their book. I was like, what's going on here?
Well, resident watch is separate from Tenant Association / Resident Council.
And so they would have their room. They had their own room.
Right. That's why when I talk to tenants, they tell me, I don't get involved because Tenant Association, Resident Watch. I tell them, I say, they're two separate entities. I tell them, keep that in mind. Always remember, if you have a beef with Resident Watch, it's separate from Tenant Association. They're two separate entities. That's number one. And
Resident Watch has a sign-in with PSAs. Why? Why did they sign in with the PSA?
Because they are watching. They're the resident. They like the cops for the development. So they have to. They are in. They're in relation with the PSA. PSA is the public service area, right? And the PSA is not your regular precinct. It's the housing cops. These are housing cops, PSAs. So when resident watch, say for instance, if something's going on in the building, say there's people living in the building that's in the hallways, that's a police matter, right? Yes. So they have to be able to communicate with the police, the area officers, to keep note, and that's why they have the community affairs. What do they call it? The PSAs have the community affair division, where they have the committee made up of residents from NYCHA. And so it's all supposed to be working together. Even though they're separate, they still supposedly are to work together.
And what we're trying to make sure, and what we're trying to make sure to the audience is to let you know that these are entities that's supposed to be giving NYCHA residents a voice, right? So as you see, that the PIX 11 report that we was just watching, they kept saying, listen to the residents, listen to the residents. These are all ran and focused. It's all resident, NYCHA resident based, right? Your tenant association residents, your tenant patrol or whatever they have named it now, resident watch is residents, right? They're all supposed to be having a voice. We have relationships with the PSAs, which they have build a block meetings, and they have separate meetings, separate from NYCHA, but they work a collaboration with NYCHA residents for them to hear our voices, right? But you can talk to so many residents and they don't know about any of these entities. And it's operating from the development. I just don't understand. Do you know why that is, Crystal? Why are so many residents oblivious to these things that operate from the development?
Well, listen.
They're all on the grounds. I mean, these are things on our grounds.
Yeah,
in the
it's a mess. It's and it's always been shady for as long as I can remember. Where you get these people that come in, these tenants. They join the Tenants Association, they become the president, and they get high-minded, and they start operating like they madams or whatever, godfathers, godmother. I'm sorry. They operate like they forget what they're there for. So you're only and to sit. If we see resident associations should be kept simple, meaning that because the resident council is made up of people who live there in that development, and your purpose is to have a building captain, have floor captains, meet monthly to discuss issues, whether your hallways are filthy, whether you don't like your management, the way they operate. It's meant to be kept simple. And what happens is people say that they're in it, but I'm gonna get involved in this because I really want my development to be better. I don't want the rats jumping over my feet and the garbage to be sitting out there 24/7 or whatever. And anything we want as tenants, I'm seeing DJ, is that who's putting that up? So should I finish?
I put the 964 back up just because that's what we're really talking about. Yes.
And so for instance, when I got in, okay, I really didn't want to be president. I wanted to be secretary because I like to write. Someone else got the position for secretary. So since no one was running for president, I said, okay, I'll run for president. And I got the position with what they call that, with just one vote over. That's not a lot. Okay.
But that's still a win. Congratulations to that.
Right, it's still a win.
You know, and I know you're not that right now, but congratulations that you won. You was voted in, you know?
Right. And the only reason why there was an election to begin with is because I was hanging out in the tenant patrol room, because I used to like to go down there and hang out with the old people. I was kind of new to my old.
That's who usually we have. The older people was doing resident watch.
Right. And I was kind of new to the building as well. And I'm a people person. I like people, so I know how to mingle. So I would sit down there and hang out. And then I said at one of the meetings that the resident watch had, back then it was tenant patrol, I asked the lady from NYCHA at they had a meeting, and I says, is the elections due at my development? She said, girl, incidentally, they are. And that's how she started the election, getting stuff ready for the election. And we had the election, it was 2011 when the election took place. And maybe 2 weeks after that election, this is just a sidebar, 2 weeks after the election, I got a call saying they wanted to do infill in my development because we had all this underutilized property. So what's your original question? I'm sorry.
You was definitely answering it. But wait, Crystal, I just wanted to also just remind people, right, that this 964 regs, as y'all can see, it says housing and urban development. That's HUD, right? Regulations relating to housing and urban development. and they have Office of Secretary of State for Public and Indian Housing, Department of Housing and Urban
Yes.
Development. That's
Very
all
important.
under where we are as NYCHA residents. And they talk about the rules of engagement and what we have a right to in this document, which is tenant participation and tenant opportunities and public housing. And we want you to familiarize yourself with this. And Crystal always tries to encourage people to check out your city council meetings that focus on NYCHA's housing committee. That's what we were seeing when we were looking at the PIX report. The new representative was that young man that was talking with the NYCHA resident that says she wants to run for assemblywoman. So you see, there's a lot of new movement, I feel, with NYCHA residents when it comes to them starting to run for office. And that's why I felt like DJ Elf goes in the right direction, telling people to join their county committee, which helps people vote for their lawyers, because we have the judges, because our judicial system with criminal law, criminal so forth, we should be involved in that, since we have so many black and brown people living in our developments, and we know that the justice system is crooked, that they have people in Rikers Island that shouldn't be there at all, right? That they're doing things wrong to our people. So the county committee is a great place to start.
Even housing decisions will be judged by judges.
Yes. And you could tell people how they could connect to you, DJ Elf, regarding knowing more about the county committee.
Okay, there's something called DGL7.redmyblock. I think it's .com or .org, right? One of them, yeah. I'll check right now. But the thing is that you can use that to access the voter database, so you can negotiate with your elected officials. Right now is this is election season, and people know that this is somehow an opportunity to leverage, right, mobilization for things going on. Now, there's a couple, we're having a meeting this Sunday with different communities. Now, the thing is that out of all the groups that I work with, disabilities, wrongful conviction, public housing is really not able to really leverage. They're actually kind of weak, right? Like we said before, I think the vote at Chelsea Fulton, they lost their race by the widest margin out of all contested races in the city. So mobilization-wise, they're just not getting it done. And the politicians cannot back you up. If you don't have the money, so what are you giving them? Nothing? Then you're really not going to get anything back. Now, the fact of the matter is that I've been part of a lot of different, back to the original thing that you guys were talking about. You guys were talking about the problems with the tenant watches and things like that. And I've been part of a lot of different those types of setups trying to happen. And don't feel bad, because honestly, almost all of them fail. And I'll tell you why it happens. The fact of the matter is that the problem is that the people do not hold the people in those positions accountable. One day the guy doesn't show up for work, right? Yeah, because he was sick. A couple of years later, right? Yeah, he's not showing up for months, or maybe he just stopped showing up even, in fact. But somehow that line for that money is there, so someone's taking that money, and a lot of this type of stuff is going on. The only way out, truly, right, the law of the world and the law of nature is that the weak must be persecuted. You have to know what's going on. You must, and knowledge is not power, by the way. Knowledge without the power to leverage that knowledge is meaningless. You must also fight for power. That's why we need you to actually have a position, either in the Tenant Association President, be involved. Also get involved with the county committee, where you can actually reflect judges that are going to make decisions on housing. Right now, this is not an anti-Jewish thing at all, okay? But the fact of the matter is that you can see the mayor in there with this yarmulke on, kissing the wall over in Israel and all this other thing, like all the other elected officials doing this. Why? Because the thing is that when the rabbi comes down and he says we should do this, okay, all the Jews, right? Yeah, not all of them, but almost all of them, they vote. And public housing has very similar numbers to Jewish people. If they mobilize in the same way, they would have everything. They would own the apartments. Everything would be repaired. They wouldn't have to worry about none of this. It's really within their possibility and power. If they just mobilize, that's all they gotta do. It's really just God's truth. I pray you can do it and help.
Thank you so much, DJ Elf. Now I wanted to just let you know we hit the hour mark, and I wanted to know, is everybody doing good with time? Because I know Crystal had mentioned a meeting that's going on in the evening. It's 2:00 now, and I know DJ, you was telling me that you had some stuff to do too. Are we doing good, or should we close out?
I'm okay. I want to hear what Crystal has to say.
How about you, Crystal?
I really appreciate.
Yeah, I'm good. I can hang out for a little longer.
Okay, I just want to be considerate of your time.
Yeah, I had wanted to mention that I'm noticing the attendance was 14, and now it's 9. Now wait, let me tell you why I brought that up.
Okay.
You know, and DJ Elf 7 know, and I know that everything we're discussing here today is like platinum. But a lot of tenants don't know that. They may get bored and tired of hearing it, and they don't see the importance of it, so they fizzle. And what needs to really go down, there needs to be, say, your development, my development, and DJ Elf's development. If we can get maybe 5 people and come together and stuff like that, but I can talk more about that later, because it's just like I told the chairman, one resident complaining should be like 50. It should be equivalent to 50, because if I'm only one person coming to you in dire need, and you making me feel like, oh, you just bipolar and want to complain, it's discrediting me. And those that's in leadership, they just sitting back getting fat. So there has to be something. Like I said, this is an election time. This year, if you remember, all developments had to vote the same time. That was 2019. So that means elections are coming up, I guess, in the summer, the spring, whatever. And this is our time to hold these people's asses to the fire. These so-called leaders.
Can I mention something? In about
Yes, sir.
2 weeks' time, I'm actually organizing a candidate meetup. If you look at my channel, you'll see I have candidates from all around the country. Texas, Los Angeles, right? Yeah. And the thing is that and several presidential candidates, and I'm bringing them in 2 weeks to New York City to have a discussion exclusively on New York City public housing. Not public housing across the country, exclusively New York City housing, right? Yeah, they're going to be talking about this issue. That's going to happen in 2 weekends from now.
Okay, because the way, to me, the way I see it, some people have this theory that if you're not at the table, you're part of the meal. You've heard that saying?
Yes.
If you're not at the table and pulling the shots and calling the shots, then you become part of the meal. Me personally, that's all a bunch of BS. Because eventually those people who are trying to get over, it's like a pot. You turn it on and it just boils. But eventually that pot is going to dry out and that pot's going to burn. And that's supposed to be nature. You know, you can't keep getting over and win. That is something, because if that was the case, why even be religious? Why even have a Quran, a Bible? If the enemy is constantly winning and you don't never win, then what good is even bothering? You might as well join their side. And so there has, we're going to have to, like I said, this is election time. People are going to have to get their cameras, go to these TA offices when they open, and video. If they mistreating you, if they don't want to talk to you, and stuff like that, you have it on camera. Because those are the things that you can present to resident engagement, which is something, they're not even resident engagement now. There was resident engagement, participation, and civics. So they actually changed just last month.
Isn't that something?
And they keep changing and changing and changing and changing. And so that's why, like I said, as far as I have to say this, with what's going on, as NYCHA residents, I'm not sure what this thing he has up here, taking on the fake housing.
This right here, I wanted to show them. That's the Facebook page that DJ Elf has for anyone to join that group is on taking on the fake housing advocates that serve the establishment. That's on Facebook under DJ Elf, New York City Street Activist, that y'all can join, and where he shared the 964 regs and so on. And he also mentioned his Facebook page where people can subscribe and be a part of his Facebook page, which I'll show you. But that's what I was showing you. You can connect on Facebook, and you can connect also on YouTube, which I will show you as well. But you can continue what you were saying. Yes, that's just a plug for DJ Elf, because he mentioned his connections, and that the public can go definitely to those different those sites, because the meeting that he has on Sunday is through Google. So you have to connect to him so you can be able to get the link for Google. Or can they connect to you now on? Because that was just because you was blocked, right, DJ? Now they can go on YouTube.
I think so. Yeah, I'll post it on the but I think it's limited to 6 on StreamYard. I think I can have more people in the Google Meet.
So it's better on Google. It's better on Google.
I think so. Yeah.
So it's better. That means it's better to connect directly to DJ Elf, so you can be aware of the things that he's doing. That sounds like a really awesome opportunity to meet people, to continue to make these networks. So that's all we're trying to make sure that people are aware of, the different opportunities. So this is, again, I just wanted to show you. So this is the Facebook channel. So you're looking at us on YouTube. So this is the YouTube channel, DJ Elf 7. If you go over there, you can stay abreast of the interviews he's been doing with presidential candidates that are with different parties and so forth.
Scroll down. You can take a look at them right now.
I say that again, Jen?
I said scroll down. You
can they can.
Right now.
Oh, okay.
Scroll down. Yeah.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah. So
further, yeah, you'll see all the candidates that I'm talking to right now. Yeah.
That's
great. The unified platform are the candidates that he's been interviewing.
Yeah, go to home. Go to home.
That's great.
Yeah, he's been doing a lot of work.
You're gonna see
for years.
The candidates who I'm gonna invite right there. You see that line of candidates right there? Oh, Rinaldi's been doing actually stuff for public housing.
Emmanuel, Jonathan, Robert, Jean, those are the candidates?
Yeah. Also Susan Machaki. We're gonna get more.
So who's really awesome. I think that you would really like her, Crystal. She's very passionate. She doesn't feel that it's really interesting. But if y'all check out the channel, if you're not familiar with it, definitely check out that channel, DJ L7, because he really does a lot of great interviews, and of course he works a lot with Christopher. So it's a lot going on right here locally. But Crystal, I want to make sure that you know that I think you're awesome. I think you're a great advocate. And I don't want you to speak in a way where you're like, oh, we don't really, we need more people. One person makes a difference. And you have been out there vocal, speaking up for NYCHA residents, telling people to get their bylaws, telling people, listen, when it comes to education, you might always have pushback and people might get bored or whatever, but we still have to have the resource out there. And one of the reasons why we're doing the live today is because you was talking about how there's such a lack of information out there. You know what I'm saying, Crystal?
Yes.
So we just have to be teachers and just constantly be willing to be open to teaching those who are interested. Yeah, we're going to have people that are not interested, but we also have people that do criminal activities. They spend half of their life in prison, right? They spend half of their life incarcerated. They make choices to abuse their bodies either through alcohol or drugs. But we have to say what we allow people to do is their choice, right? Like the Bible says, choose life or death, right? You have life or death before you, and the suggestion is to choose life. But as long as we have information for people, if they are interested, we are doing something, because sometimes people aren't open to whatever. They have been discouraged. Like I was on a live with DJ Elf, and it was a NYCHA live. I was meeting a lot of NYCHA residents virtually, like we're doing now. And it inspired me to reach out to you and have this today, because DJ Elf had said, sometimes residents don't know you and they don't trust you. And that's very important. Like, you can have all the answers you feel, right? You've been doing all this work, but they don't know us, right? No matter how much work we've been doing, it's still not translating to these people. Like, I don't know why, but we have to constantly stay in the game. And one of the core pieces is the education, because people don't know about their resident association. And I have been in a meeting where they said several developments are not represented. Like, they just can't get residents to even be in leadership positions. That's not good. So none of those developments are even learning about it. So we can create the information. So if they choose to go online and put in something, resident council, 964 regs, whatever, it will pop up. You know what I mean, Crystal?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you, Edna, for having this YouTube channel, and like you say, you're gonna help me later on how to do like what DJ Alpha's doing. I see he's, you and him, y'all connecting to this and that. You're clicking over to this while you're still there and all this kind of thing here. And I want to know how to do all.
Channel. Yes, definitely, Chris.
I want to know how to do all of that stuff.
That's awesome.
Because tenants, this thing been going on too long. And truth be told, we have a tremendous lawsuit that we could be doing today. NYCHA, New York City Housing Authority developments, whatever number it is in New York City, which incidentally is the richest authority in the country. So how could you be the richest authority and need 78 billion would it be? Is what I want to know. But yes, we have such a large lawsuit that we could be putting together tonight, and let me tell you why. Because the fact that the 964 regulations, the first thing it says is, we're here to provide you clean, safe properties, and that's the first thing they say. Well, it's not. That hasn't been going on in decades. The first thing they say is safe, clean, right?
Right.
That's the first thing they say. So it's like if I'm telling you, you know what I'm trying to say. So that right there, we should be able to have a lawsuit with just that. Because you're not providing us with safe, clean, what you call them. The clean part, these people clean, they sweep and mop and all this kind of thing here. But, and all this kind of thing. So my point is, we have such a tremendous lawsuit and we're not doing anything with it. Like that lead thing that happened, a friend of mine was like, y'all tired of paying rent? That right there, you should have shut NYCHA down with just that one thing. When Shayola Ilatoya claimed to have signed.
That was our chair. Yes.
Right. She was the chair that claimed she signed the paper saying all buildings which was swapped for lead.
Yes.
And that everybody was cleared. Come to find out she hadn't signed the paper. And all of the window ledges weren't swiped. And a friend of mine said that was y'all's opportunity to put a lawsuit together and sue NYCHA as a whole, the whole New York City Housing Authority. And so you have Berger, what is his name? Barber, Barber, who's the District Council of President's chair. Danny Barber.
Yes.
And from what I hear,
he's been interviewed. He's been on. They had him on record on a TV show. Daniel Barber. Remember, he was the voice for a long time.
Yeah, he's always on TV. Mm-hmm. They go to him. They go to what's her face that was just on that you showed. They show different ones who are supposedly the spokespeople for us.
Yes.
And
And wait, Crystal, and let's just to mention that woman is the one who was with Patton. Remember, we was talking about that. Lynn Patton, and she went to the White House. Remember, she was doing the most. That particular TA president that wants to run for assembly, she went to the White House. She was going hard, allegedly, for NYCHA residents, making sure our voices heard under the Trump administration.
No,
with Ben
Exactly.
Carson being
Exactly.
I want to ask a question. Yeah.
oh yes, Ed.
Okay. So, like, since you were Tenant Association President, I've wondered. I never really knew, but I know sometimes tenants get things rolled out to the apartments like refrigerators. So they'll be like, "Oh, I want a refrigerator." But one concern that I've had is that I feel like the tenants don't really get the choice as in terms of what refrigerator they get. So I think that, if they said like, oh, we have this much budget for a refrigerator, and then the tenant like, had like a choice of refrigerators, but they just get rolled out something. Sometimes they're refurbished when they were told that they would be new and things like that. As a tenant association president, what control did you have as in terms of like, what type of stuff that people got, and what can we do to help them get more control of the process so they can determine what kind of materials, like, the doors are made out of cardboard, you know what I mean, like, what I'm talking about.
Right.
What can they do to actually get quality materials around here? And
That's a very good question. And it's just like I'm gonna flip over to cameras because, as you know, every 10 years we're supposed to get new appliances.
Right.
That's just automatically. The quality of the appliances, this is considered low income housing. So I don't think we're going to get marble sinks and platinum faucets. I doubt if that's going to happen. When it's public and stuff like that. But as far as the choices, I'm going to bring up cameras. I can remember when I think Wagner houses, they had a TA president. This lady was in there for 1,000 years, as they usually, when they get in, they stay forever. Okay. She was able to get cameras in every inch of Wagner houses, right? Okay. So when they came to us, they told us they had something like 2,500, like 50,000. We got about $50,000 for cameras for your development. Where would you like the cameras to be? And the way I operated, I would always get my board's opinion on everything. That way nobody could say, well, she did this and didn't let us know. I would ask them everything first. My board said they really didn't know. They really was like, I'm not sure. It's not enough money to cover everything we want anyway. So they were confused. And Mr. Nunez said, who was my vice president, he said, why don't we just get the camera in the front entrance and in the exit? And so that's what we went with. And whether the quality of the surveillance cameras was top notch or if it was something bought in a secondhand store, we didn't really have that choice to know what. And so, in answer to your question, that's a very, very good question.
So,
and anything that so in answering your question,
yeah,
anything that comes through when it comes to contracts, the Tenants Association is right there at that meeting. They have to be, because it's HUD, right? That's all HUD. The tenants. That's why I keep trying to tell people to get on board with their TAs. I'm not saying that for nothing. When your butt is in there, you get to see you're there. So when they come in with the contracts, they may not have came with us for every little thing. But I can remember them, contacting us. But we're getting ready to do the sheetrock for the roofs or whatever, and we're going to meet with the and you're invited as a TA. But as far as the quality of stuff, you might go to a development, DJ, that their stuff might look like something that the Rockefellers getting, and then you might go to someplace in Upper Manhattan where the stuff look like they just put it together with bubble gum.
So wait a second.
Why that's the case, I don't know.
Quick question. So when you're invited to the meeting, do they be like, oh, well, you can choose from this 2 or 3, or do they say, you know what, this is how much budget we have, you can help us like look on your own, you know what I mean, maybe you have a suggestion, or is it just like, we're telling you this is what you're getting, like what is, as a
right? That's a very good question, because they didn't pull out they didn't give us some what they call it,
brochures or something, right?
They didn't give us a brochure and say, well, these are all the refrigerators, pick which one. They didn't do that.
Do they even do that? 2 or 3, or they just tell you like this is what you're getting?
Yeah, they didn't tell us. They didn't show us these are the 3 surveillance cameras going to be. You have a choice, pick one. No, they didn't do that. But that's not to say that they're not doing it.
It's NYC administration that does this, right?
Yeah, that's not to say that they're not doing it.
Who does this at which office? Do you remember who specifically is making this decision or who's in charge of that? Who's rolling that out?
Well, I would imagine the superintendent's involved, management's involved. That's really it. I would imagine.
Yeah, they're always so faceless. I don't
Superintendent.
remember all their names either. They're always like they're like bots, like, you know.
Yeah, the superintendents are definitely involved.
Okay.
But they do tell us at the board meetings what developments are working with what contractor, and they also let us know if an RFP is out and for what work, because NYCHA always goes for the lowest bid. They're not going to go for the best worker. They go for the lowest bid. Whoever can really do this contract, they're going to get it. So if they the problem and that's another part of the corruption. If the contractor underbid and he doesn't have materials to complete the job, it's just, you know, it's in limbo until NYCHA can, find money in the budget to complete the job. And that goes along with not holding these people accountable and making sure they stop doing these things. Like, they're always going for the lowest bid. And if the people mess up the materials, or if there's some kind of corruption where they steal materials or something happened, they didn't put the stuff away properly, and residents end up stealing it or whatever, it's just tough cookie to the residents. You don't hear them taking people to court and finding these people and them saying that we're not going to use this contractor no more. It continues with the cycle of corruption. Another thing that's like a part of the cycle of corruption, if you identify somebody, like we mentioned the CEO that lied about the lead, all she did was resign. She did not have criminal charges. Oftentimes, if they do identify a staff, do you agree with me, Crystal? If we find a staff that did something that's illegal or they lied, they just get out of there. They don't face criminal charges.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of the comments, and it says we are highlighting corruption on the highest level. One, JJ Sunshine says, "Can you force people to pay attention?" No, you can't. Because if people don't know the value of something, they're gonna keep it moving. I know the value of a resident council because I was born into it. My relative was on the resident council in the 70s. That's why I know the value of it. Right. But what was your question?
Do you feel that when we identify NYCHA staff that's corrupt, that did something illegal, that they don't face criminal charges?
Yeah, me personally, I'm starting to feel like, I don't even know if I can really say it online, because some things, if you sit back and you see where things are going, these resident councils, for them to be operating the way they are, and it's up to the residents to approach them about what they're not doing right. So that leaves 90 Church Street folk off the hook, because their thing is, well, we can't come up there to your developments and kick the door in and tell them what to do. The tenants have to do that. So that puts them, that takes the heat off of them. Right. And so as far as people doing things corruptly and all this kind of thing here, I think it's really, it's bad. I really believe it's, I can't even say what I'm really thinking because I don't know who's listening.
But I see, and now that's what makes me laugh. And see, that's where it goes back to when people start wondering who's listening. Because I have invited a lot of people to the panel to talk about NYCHA, right? And people were saying to me, I don't want negative repercussions, right? And I said, how are we going to get negative repercussions just talking about the facts? And see, Crystal, she's like, I'm sick of this. I'm ready. Like, let's go toe to toe. So she doesn't mind talking. But I know a lot of residents, right? They have a lot of complaints, but they don't want to go to the forefront and say anything. So then it makes it look like, why are you the only one speaking? That's why I always support Ed. Ed could be out there by himself screaming, but I know for a fact that he is representing people that don't want it. He always tells you all the time, he says, I'm here for the voiceless. I'm here for those who, people don't want to listen to. People don't want it. They want to consider them trash. They want to put them they don't care. And it's important to always try to push that reality to people, make them see, because
If
people
I can
want
say
to
something,
ignore disability. They want to ignore that people are misusing poverty, right? They're making money. Somebody's making money out of all of this. I just read to y'all that there was money allotted. But there's always money allotted. Money either to fix the playground that never gets fixed. Somehow management reallots that money, and what was supposed to be done doesn't get done, but city council gave them money. What was you gonna say?
Why are they also always repairing the outside, the exteriors, and not the interiors? Crystal, do you know? Why is that, Crystal? You're the association president. What's up with that? How
With
did
the
it get
facade. Why
to
that make you laugh, Crystal? You agree with that?
I used to be a president. It's pathetic, man. I'm telling you, this is why people. You know what's going on? I know a lady with 4 children with autism, and she's got her bachelor's. I think she just got her master's. Now you would think with 4 kids with autism, where does she get time to study, right? Okay. Now you can have degrees up to your butt. That don't mean you're gonna get the job either. But a lot of jobs want people. That community board, when they went out for the new director, the application said bachelor's required, and then in parentheses it had master's preferred. Okay, so what's my point in saying that? A lot of people in NYCHA, they go to school, they figure if they better their skills, that they can get a good job and get out of NYCHA. Okay, we should always better ourselves.
I agree.
And so I'm learning. I'm a type of person. When I started out with this foolishness, all I want to know is how to keep my water hot, how to keep my heat on, and my apartment free of whatever. I didn't care about the politics of it. I didn't care about becoming this person who's going to get a job. I'm going to be getting 6 figures. But I should have been thinking along those lines, because nowadays that's what a lot of tenants are doing that are becoming leaders. They don't give a rat's ass about the people, because if they did, there would be floor captains, building captains. We wouldn't have this garbage in front of our building, because those are the basic, simple stuff that we're supposed to be working on. Not all that high-minded stuff. It's supposed to be the basic, simple things. Keeping your building clean. Letting them, if I got a beef with you because you dropping stuff on my head, the TA can mediate. What other types of things? It's so much. We got a youth division in NYCHA, where the TA presidents are the lead people. They're the sect leaders, the TA presidents. For the youth councils, I don't know if people know that. There's money that they get. They're writing proposals to get money for that. So they're doing all of these things, and they're not letting the residents know. And guess what? This is going to be the last thing I'm going to say until you ask me another question. If these resident councils are stealing, do you think for 1 minute, and say they've been operating corrupt for 20 years, what makes you think that you and 5 tenants, well, even though, no, I'm not going to say that, because you and 5 tenants can't make an impact, because there's witnesses. If it's just you by yourself, that's one thing. But if it's about 5 others with you, then that means you have witnesses. Because if I got a Ponzi scheme, and you coming against me, I'm gonna try to get rid of you.
Right.
So that can be an option. So our safety is a big thing. Being safe. Because if all the people on that side are corrupt, they're criminal, they got district leaders on this side that have been in office since the 70s, these people can make you disappear. And you don't want that to happen.
I don't want it to happen, but DJ Elf is always saying, I'm ready to die. He said, I'm ready to die. You don't care anyway. See, so DJ Elf is more radical, okay? You get up there and say, hey, exactly. I'm ready. But see, I don't want to. That's why DJ Elf, he can ask me to something. I'll be like, not today, DJ, not today. I'll go to eat before I go to his rally.
Hello, Manfred the Crystal.
Speaking, who's this?
No, man, it's good.
I'm
I'm glad.
Principal.
I just wanted to show y'all that
Oh, okay. How you doing?
Oh, interesting. What's that?
you
A
see
newsletter?
the Tenant Association, when I first moved here in 2005, they used to have a newsletter, right? This is in 2012, okay? I don't know what was the budget that they had where they was utilizing a newsletter. But at the time I moved to my development, my TA president was Ann Bradshaw. She was very well known. And she died in her position. You hear me? She didn't get out of being the resident leader. She was the TA president and she died. That's the only way she got out. Okay? And she was very, very well known and well received in my area. Okay? And I just wanted to just read to y'all the memorandum. This woman, let's keep it real. She's a TA president. When I moved over here, she gave me a computer. She always made sure I got a turkey. She always made sure I got to leadership meetings and so forth. Now, Ann R. Bradshaw was a longtime member of the NLIHC, which is the National Low Income Housing Coalition. Okay?
Yeah.
That's what that stands for.
Okay.
She and a regular participant at the annual conference. Ms. Bradshaw died on October 23rd, 2010 at the age of 96.
Wow.
Okay? Ms. Bradshaw was originally from New Orleans, Louisiana, but lived for many years in New York City. Her dedication to low-income housing advocacy impacted the lives of many, not just in New York City, but across the country. And most of your TA presidents are exposed to other developments across the country. Okay? They have the opportunity. We're not saying that they all attend, but they do get the opportunity to network with other public housing developments across the country. Ms. Bradshaw funded Teamwork Action for Tenants in 1975 and was president of her tenant association at Robert Taft Houses, a public housing development in East Harlem. Ms. Bradshaw also held the office of financial secretary with the District Council of Presidents. That's what we're talking about, CC. And that's why I know, right? So I know about these things because I was under Ms. Bradshaw, okay? So I know about these entities because of the network, right? If you're out of network, you're not going to know. But that's why we're trying to share things so the public can be aware of these entities that's been going on for decades, okay? That's what we want to look, and they're all for the resident voice, the resident to have a voice with NYCHA, right? So Ms. Bradshaw also held the office of financial secretary with the District Council of Presidents, Manhattan North, and served as the chairperson to the Harlem Public Housing Scholarship Fund's Community Advocacy Committee. That's all about money, right? They're giving scholarships so kids can go to college and so forth. But we still have tenants. They don't know anything about it, right? But somebody does, right? We know. That's what we're telling you. Ms. Bradshaw co-founded the New York City Public Housing Resident Alliance in 1995 and became the chairperson in 2000. Over the years, she oversaw a wide range of volunteer services like youth programs, voter registration, food and clothing drives, and programs for seniors. Ms. Bradshaw was an active voice for tenant protections and rights on a wide range of issues. Locally and federally, Ms. Bradshaw strongly opposed the community service requirements for public housing tenants proposed in Representative Rick Liezzo's Quality Housing and Work Responsibility Act of the 1998, calling it forced labor imposed on people simply because of their address, and a punitive attack on residents, an unfair and gratuitous intrusion into our lives, unprecedented in federal housing policy. In 2002, at the urging of the New York City Public Housing Resident Alliance and other housing advocates, Representative Charles Rangel introduced an amendment blocking implementation of community service requirements. Ms. Bradshaw consistently made an effort to get young people involved in housing issues, and I was one of them that she worked with. Okay, I was one of them, of the many, and many considered her a mentor. One of her proteges recalls that Miss Bradshaw kept a library of legislation and information on housing issues, and that she knew who to meet and where to go. We will miss her this year and years to come. Now, as far as I know, we don't host anything to remember her in her name, but we had many people. Miss Kitchen, she was another highly recognized tenant leader. A lot of our tenant leaders have passed away, and people really weren't picking up they're not passing. They didn't pass the. First of all, they didn't pass the baton. That's number one. She was 96 when she died. Okay, we have a lot of TA presidents. They're not trying to. They're not trying to get out of the position. This is very, very exciting for them. This is the best thing ever for them, and they don't want to let it go. So
That's
we have
right.
to keep in that. We have to keep in mind that we can be open to having something in addition to what we have, because we got a lot of people in positions. They're not trying to let it go. They're not giving
Right.
us the information, and they don't want you to be in competition with them. So it's a fight,
Right. That's right.
but it's a good fight. Wouldn't you say, Crystal?
You got to take care of you. Your first, like this young guy, DJ Elf. I don't know how old he is. But he's a male, and they age different from us. I think they handle stress differently than we do. And so you got to take care of yourself. You can't make this a priority. That's why I used to always say, even though I made it a priority, some people say I was obsessed with it, but I would always tell the tenants, I don't plan on being your president forever. I want to pass that baton. I want people to know, each one teach one and all that kind of thing here. This woman was 90-something years old, and stuff like that. But you have you got to make sure when you get involved, know what time it is. In other words, there's a saying that says the easiest way to find a solution is knowing where to look. So you want to know what's required of you, how much time you're going to be allotting to this thing. You got to break this thing down to a science, so that way it protects you. Because if, say for instance, if you go to church or you're a part of some type of civic group and stuff like that, which is why you never get Jehovah's Witnesses to be part of stuff. Because if you have a meeting on the day of their worship, they are not coming, period.
And no Israelites, Hebrew Israelites, period. No, sundown, they're not coming.
If it's on a Wednesday of their pilgrimage or whatever, they ain't coming.
No.
So, and that's a good thing, because they're taking care of the thing that's going to give them a peace of mind.
Yes.
But when you're busy trying to, it's like hitting your head against the wall over and over and over and over again. Eventually, something's going to jiggle. So you have to make sure that all your ducks is in a row, that you got, it's concise. I can go on and on for days, because you have to take care, number one, first.
Yes.
And the
health
thing
and wellness.
yes.
Health and wellness.
I know people who have tried to become presidents in different developments, and those people that's in there already, the people didn't have a chance. If you look at Stanley Isaacs, for instance, those women over there couldn't get through to their Tenants Association, because that lady over there, her husband was TA president. When he died, she got in. She probably didn't even get voted in, but you didn't hear me say that. But
I didn't.
And so they got things run so tight over there.
Yes.
And it's not because they have a whole lot of tenants fighting the fight with them. Those few that they got working with them. You see where I'm going with this? Okay. So they got fed up because they couldn't get in. So they formed a coalition. They formed a little coalition called Stanley Isaac Homes Towers Coalition Not-for-Profit. They formed their own group. Now, why I would never do that is because not-for-profits got to be going here and there begging for money, right? Because when you have an organization, you gotta get the information out. You're going to need money to keep, for your meetings, your snacks, and all those kind of things here. Tenant associations are sitting on TPA money. They got tenant participation money. If you look TPA up online, you will see hundreds of thousands of dollars at that development. You'll see this 62,000 sitting there and all this kind of thing here. And so it's not that there's no money. You see, it's about why should I struggle trying to wake people up in my development when I need to be on that TA spending some of that money. You see where I'm going with this? So
Yes.
I'm gonna wrap it up because I like to go on and on and on and on. But this is what we're gonna have to do. It's either you're gonna you have to put you first. Like my health right now, I think the stress, the coffee helped too because the caffeine is no good for your body. But by me constantly to TA this and the pressures of this, and they don't want to comply with me, and they want to do this and that. They don't like me because of this, and all this kind of BS that was going on. It aged me, and it was only God's mercy that I'm still here. Because I know TA people who have died. They done got cancer. Their bodies got sick, ravaged with disease, and you know why? Because the stress of them not getting what they needed. And usually those were the honest people. Because the crooks, they don't care one way or the other. They don't care. They don't even like their own children. So what makes you think they're going to like you? And so it's that kind of ball game. So just in conclusion, take care of you and know what you're getting into. This ain't rocket science. That's what bylaws are for and things that's supposed to govern organizations are for. That's the purpose of having something to govern something. So that
that's what you're educated on.
Uh-huh.
That's something that I always have to remind myself because we've been in it so long. Okay, Ed, yourself, and me, we've been in this so long that now we've learned a jargon that the common person that's not involved may not know. Like they might just not know. When we say bylaws, they don't know what we're talking about. When we say regulations, they don't know what we're talking about. When we say tenant patrol or whatever, we use these terms that our layperson may not know, and it's always about us being able to be willing to teach. And
I had a workshop one time before I wrote all that writing because I told you I like to write.
Yes.
What is a tenant association? What does it require? It was just lengthy, all this writing. I posted it in the buildings. I got like 10 people that showed up.
And that's a success. You didn't have an empty room.
Yeah. And so, you try to teach them about what they need to know. But it's sad. I'm not saying that
But you know what I'm saying? Like, Ed, do you agree with that?
Yeah.
One of the major things that I think make organizers burn out is that they want such a huge number. We have to value whoever comes. It can branch out.
We do.
Like 10 is a lot. That's a lot of people. I think our expectations. We want to have a full room, or we want to have standing room. We have these visions of grandeur when we really need a small group to start with and make sure they get educated.
But you know what? I'm sorry. I just wanted to shove in there for a second.
No problem.
Yeah, it's not that I want goo gobs of people to show up because that's not really was my thing. I put a lot of energy into what I'm doing.
Of course. And
so that and stuff like that. So that's why I say, you have a lot of people that their tolerance level is small. If they see that it's not getting through, they're not gonna kill themselves. And that's the thing about NYCHA. That's why I really believe that our people like you and me, we are really we just better have them bags packed. You better have that supply of food and water, clothes, change of clothing, and everything that you're going to need because we don't know. We may end up in the street because these people who were supposed to be voices for us, they turncoats. They're turncoats. They talk a good game in the beginning. I'm for the tenants and I'm standing up for their rights and all this kind of thing. And then when they get in, it's a whole nother ball of wax. So We got to be ready, because I'm gonna guarantee you, there's no way I would ever stay in this development that I'm in and have these people govern my account with NYCHA. Hell no.
You see,
Talking about,
Joshua said,
you know, when they talk about tenants owning, managing their own, managing and stuff like that. Oh, no, 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 no. I would never stay in this development and have these people manage my account. No
right.
way.
You see,
Mm-mm.
Joshua said it causes depression and anxiety. Many people who live in shelters, they get sick food. They give them spoiled food. And he said NYCHA, his experience, NYCHA is the worst apartment he ever had. Many people packing up to move out of NYCHA, the shelters, into new places in New York or out of the 5 boroughs. And you know, some people, they do have really bad experiences in NYCHA.
True.
I have had a good experience my whole time in NYCHA. I feel like I've been able to voice my opinions and so forth. And I know that because of people talking to me, like I had one woman, she's very upset with my stance on NYCHA, and she said that NYCHA won't even do repairs. She was explaining how she was having horrible mold problems and that they was not making it a priority to relocate her. She said that she had a right to be relocated due to the severe mold that was in her apartment.
Right.
She just felt like, you know, she wasn't being heard. So
Right.
yes, we do have people that they do voice their opinion and they don't feel heard.
Right.
And I haven't had that experience. I even feel heard by you. See, so I've complained about issues and I felt depressed, or I started having anxiety or whatever. And Ed and Crystal offered some comfort to mentally help me come back to feel like I can do something. And if you don't have that network, I feel it can be challenging. So that's what we're trying to encourage you. We're trying to encourage you to get with your tenant association or form your own network. And DJ Elf has showed you he has a network that you can join, that you can access through the Facebook page or through your YouTube channel. You also have other networks such as Sika. You have Save Section 9. You know, sometimes you just have to do a little research. And if you're still having problems, you can put in the comment section that you haven't been able to find it. And I will try to support you in that. But we do have a lot of resources for people to try to understand about NYCHA that is even just online. So, you know, if you're feeling a little lost or that you're hitting the wall, you know, you move forward that way, starting to make coalitions and network with people because you feel like your voice is not being heard. But in my experience, I do feel like I'm being heard, and that's important. What about you, Crystal? Do you feel like people hear you?
Not really. And that's why you got to try to be on the board, because people want to partner with you. People will turn up. Usually, people that's running for office for things, they come to your tenant meetings and they want to partner. I remember she was the commissioner, the NYCHA commissioner back in 2014. I forget her name. She's Spanish, short hair. I like her a lot. She wears her hair. I wish I could remember her name. Not Melissa Belvery, not her. I forget the lady's name, but she was the commissioner. And she actually took us, she had a meeting about recycling. She came to our meeting and told us Manhattan's going to be underwater in 16 years. And that was like 2014. But she also took us to lunch to try to persuade us to do infill. She was like, y'all don't agree to it, they're going to treat y'all like the mob and force y'all out and stuff like that. And so there's always going to be people that's going to want to partner with you. And you need to be on that board. Even even the membership, you are automatically a member according to HUD because those bylaws were waived. So there are no restrictions. There's no restrictions anymore. You are automatic. If you on the lease and you over 18, you automatically qualify.
Yes, and I wanted to add about that. So when it comes to the resident association, like you just say you're interested in running, you have to be a tenant in good standing. So that means that if you have rent arrears, you will not be allowed to run. Okay, they do a vetting process. So just anybody can't run. I hope we're not giving you that impression. There are criteria that you have to meet to be able to run with to be on the board. And one of those major things is that you must be a tenant in good standing. Did you want to add anything about that, Crystal?
Right, and that simply means you have your rent need to be paid.
Yes.
Because NYCHA, like say for instance, if you killed 12 people, they may not consider you qualified. But if you pay your rent, if you pay your rent, say if you were consistent, because people could be lying on you. People could be calling management and saying you pissing in front of their door, and it don't have to be true. So
and
when
they'll
they
call
talk
you
about
down to management, and you'll be like, "What's going on here?" They say you've breached your lease, and
right,
they'll bring you in. I've been brought in for that, guys. Can you believe that? You know, to try to intimidate me. We do experience being intimidated by management when you try to do so, and I do fall back. I do fall back because I have a child. I wanna live peacefully, right? Did you gonna say something, Ed?
I want to actually ask about that. I also want to bring up Josh as well. So the thing is that what Josh said was that he had such a bad time at NYCHA, or maybe he was saying other people did, that people moving out of NYCHA into the shelter system.
Yes.
I found that quite like, you know, maybe it's true, maybe it's not, but to me it seems weird because the thing is that in NYCHA you have more privacy than you do in the shelter system. Usually when the shelter you gotta have like a roommate, you know what I mean? And you can't really control that, you get what I mean? But in NYCHA you have your own apartment, or, you know, worst case scenario you have your own room, like with the studio or something. So unless you have like family or something. So that was a little bit I just wanted to understand why people would move from NYCHA into the you know, into the shelter, number one.
Well, because you can get a different voucher. So in the shelter, I know people that have done that, right? So in the shelter, allegedly, right? I mean, everybody doesn't get to maneuver. Like some people, they think that they're gonna be able to work the system, right? So they go there so they can get vouchers and they can get a better spot than NYCHA.
Exactly. The other piece of that is, right, usually as far as I know, males in the shelter system are pushed into city facts versus NYCHA. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong.
Really?
But
you mean single men in the shelter? They don't encourage them to apply for NYCHA. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, they push them towards city FEPs.
What is this called? City who?
City FEPs. City FHE.
That's one of the vouchers that came under the Biden administration.
It's very simple.
Okay. Well, how do you spell? What's the first letter? City Fest.
I'll put it in the chat.
Oh, okay. Yeah, single people have it really hard with trying to get anything. They take all, if you're working, they take all your money. That's why people be, can I let me have a couple of babies with her so that way I pay less taxes or whatever. You know, I mean that was kind of stupid, but I'm just saying, and you know that's what they do. So, things really are not working enough. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I was interested to see how like you went down like a different pathway from the way that I normally understand things to work.
I can share that.
Interesting. Thank you.
Hello.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you.
Is somebody saying something, or was somebody saying something?
No. Oh, last thing I'm gonna step on is I think it's really good for us.
Yeah. No, Ed was talking. Can you hear him?
Oh.
Yes.
I think they're purposefully, right? Like I think Fulton, Chelsea, they're like not filling a lot of the apartments. Also, in other developments, what they're doing is they're moving in people with language barriers. You know, like how like at GameStop, how they'll sign up the people who can't speak English for like their little membership or whatever. It costs like $2 a month or whatever. They do the same thing. You know, they're taking advantage. So they're trying to shuffle different people, community. Actually, it's a new form of apartheid, to tell you the truth. Right?
Absolutely. Oh, well, this guy's brilliant. DJ, you're brilliant. You're brilliant.
I've been around.
And that's what it's all about. It's communication, it's talking. I get so excited. I get chills talking to people. I'm so glad, I met Edna because she's going to teach me some things. Maybe I could start me a podcast. Maybe I could. I'm sorry for cutting you off, DJ.
No, you're doing
Did I cut you off?
No, I'm done.
Yeah, I really want to, because we, as NYCHA people, we deserve so much more. We make up this country. We make up this country, man. We are the people. We make
They
up
said
this
in New
country.
York we're one out of every 18 people, right? We represent one out of every 18 people in New York. That's
We
nice.
are the public.
And what's happening
Yes.
to us? What's happening is Barbara, this district council. Even if he's online, man, I'm letting you know, Barbara. You got to go to God with what you're doing. I don't. I'm not saying I'm squeaky perfect, but I'm telling you, you're gonna have to go to God. All you district councilor folk, you only dealing with the presidents. These people don't come out and see what's. Even the politicians, they don't know. They don't even care. Listen, everything it stays in its lane. Everything is in its lane. That city council chick comes to these meetings. I'm at my development for what? Why are you at the meeting? Well, if there's anything I can do for y'all, let me know. What the hell does that mean? Because our tier president is doing a Zoom thing constantly. And if she doesn't want you on the Zoom, you won't get in. Or if you get in and you even ask a question, they're going to pull the plug on you and all this kind of thing. Here, this is the kind of corruption that's going on.
Right.
And it's going to continue going on if the tenants don't get together. It ain't got to be a lot. It could be 5 people to approach that tenant office when they open and say, yo, we need to speak to you. Because you think about it, COVID ain't to the level it was. So they were all like in my office, the office where I live. They got all these signs on the TA door. You got to be in. You have to have the shot in order to come in here. No one's allowed in here unless they got the COVID shot, and like they the police or something. And you know what? What could have happened? I'm gonna say this and shut up. What could have happened is for those people who did not get the shot. How about you do a Zoom thing? If they're on the board, for instance, you have a board meeting and you got 2 people who didn't get the shot. So you don't want them in the office, so you do a Zoom thing. Or you just have the phone open so they can hear what's going on. You don't put your hand up and stop them from going. You see what I'm trying to say?
I do.
And so COVID is not to the level that where it was. People are not wearing masks. Legally, it's not to the level where it's at. So the question becomes, when do you move on? All this food distribution and all of that kind of stuff, that's fine. But that needs to be put to the side now. And you need to get back to business, is basically what I'm trying to say. You can't keep operating that way, the way you was operating when it was COVID. You got to get back to the bylaws. Well, what kind of planning are we going to do from this day to the end of the year? Because you're aware that NYCHA, whatever money you don't use with TPA, they're going to pinch off of, at the end of the year, they take some back, which is probably why they don't get involved, because they know they're going to get some of the money, they're going to keep getting money back. And all these kind of things and stuff like that. So I just wanted to share that.
But I thank you. I thank both of you for joining me today, because it encourages me, because it gets discouraging when you talk to people that they don't want to come to the forefront. They don't want to come out. We keep telling them that we need numbers, and they said, not me. I'm uncomfortable. I feel like I'm gonna get retaliation, and then when retaliation happens, there's nothing we can do. Like, I don't have money to bail you out. I don't have money to do anything. I can suggest places like where they have lawyers, right? I can say, well, at the National Action Network, they have a legal clinic that happens every month, right? Or you can call and see if they can connect you to a lawyer. But as far as if you didn't have to go through it in the beginning to begin with, and that you really feel like you didn't start having any problems until you started this, it comes back to, well, if you're really passionate about it, you got to be about it, right? Because we cannot tell you that you're not going to get some pushback. We cannot tell you that. That would be us not being truthful and forthcoming. If we're going to be transparent, I think I can securely say we have all on this panel experienced pushback and some uncomfortable things that happen to us for our advocacy. But what I would say is that when we see that the cycle keeps going on, we can't be quiet. It goes back to the quote that Martin Luther King says about, if we are silent about the issue, we are part of it.
That's true.
When they say, if you're not at the table, you fooled. If you stay silent about a problem that you see, you're a part of the problem too. When you just gotta own that, you a problem. We got to start with ourselves. We have to start with ourselves. Look in the mirror. The person that can make the change is you. Right. We have to accept that. And if somebody's gonna push back to us, if we're gonna have to go through some ways, like Crystal said, we're gonna just pray first. All of us believe in the Lord. DJ Elf has publicly stated that he's a Christian. We all believe in God, and God is the higher power. We can't feel that we got to take all of this on our own. It's not our own problem, but we do see it as something corrupt, and it's a problem. And if we see it, we have to do something about it, because everybody isn't seeing it. Some people are blind to it. If you're not blind to it, you have to accept that you're called to make a change. You have to accept it. And it's not going to be easy. We're not going to sit here and lie to you and say it's not going to be easy and people not going to do some grimy stuff. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is that your work is needed, it's valuable, and it does help. That's all we can say. Am I right or wrong?
That's right. Get involved where you live.
Where you live. Start somewhere.
I agree. Thank you.
That's all we can say. And we'll end with that. Thank you guys so much. We've been over 2 hours. It goes by so good when we can talk easy. And I want to encourage all of y'all in your fight as we continue on our day-to-day. But again, you can connect to DJ Elf. Crystal doesn't have a channel yet, but Crystal came out and talked to us even though she doesn't have a channel. So we'll work on that, her level of comfortability. And when she does have one, we'll let you know. But thank you again, guys. And she's also on my channel. And maybe she'll come over to DJ Elf channel Sunday or whenever, okay?
Right, that's right.
Yeah, so because DJ Elf had a great panel with NYCHA residents, maybe next time we'll all be together. But thank you guys for coming, and I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you again. Have a great afternoon. And happy Black History Month.
Amen.
Bye.
Amen. Bye-bye.
All right, let's hang it up, folks.